Well, hello everyone. Episode 2 of
Last Week in Chiang Mai.
Last Week in Chiang Mai. That's the name for now.
Working title.
Mm-hmm.
Zavo Family Adventures.
So yeah, a lot of stuff has happened since the last one. The biggest piece of news for our family and for our business, I suppose, is that we've launched we did a launch of the first thing of our blog that is sort of a business-oriented aspect of it. It's probably a better way of saying that. But we've been working on our blog for several months now.
Yeah.
Maybe like a year even.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about it for longer than we've been working on it.
Yeah. Producing content, lots of really good content that's really on you.
Yeah.
But also a very good map of all the best coffee shops.
Oh, yes.
But just this week we launched the first part of the blog, which is designed to monetize.
Yeah.
To bring some value back home to the family. And that is a consultation service.
Yes.
Which is that people who are curious about Thailand, specifically Chiang Mai, but really Thailand, and geared towards families, but not exclusively, could consult with Lily over Skype or Zoom or something for an hour and have their questions answered.
We help other remote families move to Chiang Mai and live their dream life.
Yeah.
If your dream life is anything like our dream life, then we can help you.
Yeah, that's the sell. And I developed the landing page like 6 months ago now. Things move slow when you got 2 toddlers and I got a full-time job and you haven't had time, but the first version was about 6 months ago. We've been working on it, talking about it, and it just takes a bit of work to create the whole process, but now it's live.
Yeah.
We started pumping it around social media and Reddit.
That was such a big,
Yeah.
Just, you can create something and you feel really good about it. And you and I were giving each other complimentary notes, this is looking so great, you fixed that. And then in that moment where it was okay, it's live, but now we should share it. It took me a day and a half to actually do the thing. I made excuses, right? And I was I just need a moment to do this or something. But really, I just needed to get over that self-censorship of just sharing your creation with the world. To actually put it on my Facebook and my LinkedIn and say hey, we're offering this service.
I'm very proud of us because that is, it's just a landing page, but that is the thing that most people who try and build anything or sell anything can't overcome.
Yeah.
Even people who, I looked really into drop shipping a few years ago and I never did it, but people who would do all the work to set up a drop shipping site or something, but they would refuse to show it to their friends and family. They won't put it on their Facebook. They won't put it on their Twitter or their Instagram because they're just too afraid of that moment of exposure. And then they get mad that no one's buying or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have another friend who makes content who doesn't want to put it on his branded, his public social accounts for him. He wants to put them out sort of anonymously.
Under a brand umbrella.
Yeah, and get no traction. So that is the hardest part, to put yourself out there, to expose yourself to criticism and ridicule and public failure potentially. Yeah. And that's what is the hardest thing to overcome. So I'm really proud of us. Really proud of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we made our first $1.
Yeah.
Someone actually signed up for it. He found our Facebook group for Relocation, asked a question, and then I messaged him saying by the way, would you like to try our service? We're currently launching it for free as we trial it, and had a call with him, and it went really nicely.
Yeah. And
it's so affirming. We've been talking about this. We believe it's a good idea. We believe in this product that we've created, right?
That was just an hour ago.
Yeah.
But let's just give a bit more clarity.
Yeah.
So it's going to be $100. That's the plan for the hour. But we discounted $99 off for the first couple.
Yeah.
But we did get someone to go through the payment process because that's what we wanted, was someone to check out the whole process.
Yes.
You pay, you get redirected to a thank you page, blah, blah, blah. So someone did all that and booked a call with you and got tremendous value and gave you some good feedback.
And it's this thing that you've been trying to remind me, there's so many things that I know, about visas, right? Even though I'm Thai and I have never had to go through these visa things myself, I've educated myself on the topic, and so it's obvious to me. But a lot of people feel a lot of anxiety about this, and it was you've told me this, you reminded me this while we were setting it up, that like my expertise has value, right? And to actually be on the call and to be able to clarify something for somebody that to me took 5 seconds to check something, bouncing on top of knowledge that I've gained over the years. It was like, oh, right. Yeah, I can help.
Yeah, there's two kinds of expats here in terms of visa stuff. People who invest a lot of time and focus and actually understand these processes and know what all the words mean and know what all the documents are. And then everybody else who's just afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I only know two people actually who really know how to navigate that system and really know what it all means and kind of have like an opinion more than just like, more than just knowing what feels good and what doesn't feel good.
Yeah. But
the rest of us, the majority of us, just know it feels good when we can trade money for a visa.
Yeah.
Without issue, and it feels bad when we can't.
Right. Because I can. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, for you who read the language and you don't have this anxiety about being allowed to stay here or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was always hard for you to appreciate just how murky and confusing and kind of like scary it is.
Yeah.
For us, for the expats. And that's where that service has so much value.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Even though, because I know about things like the Smart Visa and the New Destination Thailand Visa, and I really want to tell people about them because they're valuable and they're straightforward and people can apply themselves, right? But even for us, we went and got, we've been working on the renewal for your visa. And even then, for us, it was like worthwhile to pay an agent to help us.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, we could have been at immigration for hours redoing that, right? And there's so many documents to sign. It's just like stacks on stacks and stacks of photocopies. But to have someone like check those for us, to arrive at immigration early to get a queue number for us.
Yeah.
So that we could just basically go in. Boom,
no, you have to have
boom,
an agent no matter
done.
what.
It was so worthwhile.
Even my friends who understand the system, you have to use an agent. You just can't get around that. You'd have to be so broke, I think, to not use an agent.
So tenacious.
To get dozens of papers and photocopies and everything. And even then, even when you're there, you got to talk to the agents. If you don't speak Thai, you can't even answer questions.
Oh, right, the officers?
Yeah,
they speak English, of course. It's immigration, but even then, like, it's not like a fully compatible level of English, right?
But so the service is not really a visa service. It's more about helping people who have a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions, reduce those anxieties and have answers to the questions before they come here. And a lot of that we think is going to be about neighborhood, what you can, like kid stuff, like are there playgrounds, are there schools, stuff like that. Move on. Yeah. Like, what are your options? How do you even find housing? Like, because people, if you're a solo traveler in your 20s, you want to just show up somewhere and maybe you don't even have a hostel booked. You just find it that night. Do that. But when you're coming with kids and you plan to stay here for a long time, you really want to have everything sorted out beforehand. Totally. So it's visa, but it's also just so many other things. Yeah. And because it's the information that there's so much that you can find online. There are real estate agents who produce like great videos so that you can feel good about the house that you might rent, right? Yeah. So much like travel content, etc. But it's the nitty gritty, like kind of boring day-to-day things. And it's specific to you, specific to like this street and this neighborhood that might prevent you from pulling the trigger. I think it's the unknown unknowns. Yeah. People know that they have unknown unknowns, and they know if they just look at a YouTube channel about the neighborhoods or talk to a visa agent about houses, that person isn't helping them with their unknown unknowns. Yeah. It's like, okay, you figure that out, but do you know about and it's like something they had not, like that they don't even know to look out for. Yeah. They want someone who just has like a global, that's the idea of the business, right? We don't know yet, but that's the idea. Someone who has a global understanding and could see their unknown unknowns and help point them in that direction. And we, for me, the origin of this business idea is when we were looking for somewhere to stay in Vietnam. And what was the town's name? Oh, we were looking at Da Nang and more recently Nha Trang. Nha Trang. Yeah, I was spending a lot of time looking on Airbnb and Booking.com, etc. at Nha Trang, trying to find a neighborhood to live in that would have cafes, playgrounds, be close to the beach, blah, blah, blah. And just only having Airbnb and YouTube vloggers and stuff like that, I just didn't feel like I could get enough information. And that was just for a week. I think we were there 10 days or something.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like I could get enough information to make an informed decision about where to stay in the triangle. And you don't mind if you're a solo backpacker or going with friends, because you'll just change hostels or something. But you kind of do mind when it's a family. You want it to be really good, and the consequence of getting it wrong could be a bad experience, or it could be unsafe or whatever. And I remember thinking, I wish there was someone I could just pay to talk to, who lives there, who knows about it. And I could just ask these questions, and I was like, man, I would pay $100 for that. The hotel was like $1,500 for the 10 days. Maybe not that much, but it was like.
You found us a good deal. In the end, credit where it's due.
Yeah.
You found us that dope resort that was super family friendly. We had a great time.
But we did good. But the point is, I would have paid some amount of money. I would have traded money for anxiety reduction. And that's what all of the marketplace is, right?
Yeah.
But that's where I got the idea. Is well, we could do that for people coming here. And it would be a very virtuous business because we're helping them. Yeah. And they want, no one who doesn't want it is going to, it's not like.
Yeah. Need, value, let's connect.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's I validated it based on our travels. And it's surely people who want to come here would feel some amount of people would feel the same way.
There's enough yous out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other, angle, so this blog, See You Next Local, is actually a domain that I launched several years ago. I think I bought the domain, first got a site up in 2019, 2020. But I then got very sidetracked by the job that I took on a couple years ago, and I opened a hostel and co-working space. And so I kind of pawed the project off to a friend to collaborate with. And at the time, the idea for CNX Local was more for digital nomads and remote workers and startup people. That was the world I was very much in. But then between the business and then the pandemic and then us becoming parents, I kind of dropped it off to the side.
Yeah.
And it was when we were kind of sitting down talking about what I could do for work, given that I just dealt with burnout so many times and just concerns about what's the right energy level for our family. I can be so high functioning, but I don't know how to be high functioning like I'm used to at work and also have a family. I have not figured out how to walk that road with grace. So me taking on client projects again didn't feel the right fit.
Doesn't make sense to have deadlines.
Yeah.
Or be in a sort of management structure where people are relying, they can't do their job if you don't do yours, that kind of thing. Yeah. You have to have so much flexibility. Yeah. Which is why this project is literally perfect for that.
Right. I can set my own hours, and most of what I'm doing is creating content, right? Which is stuff that we create our own deadlines. Which there's some downsides to that, It means that my productivity is not consistent, but the thing that we talk about a lot, right, that we've sort of learned from our friends who are entrepreneurs is that it's not necessarily the smartest person or the best idea that becomes successful, but what counts so much is just doing the thing and doing it consistently. You keep going at it. Yeah. And we've started, we're publishing, we're launching, we're learning.
Yeah, it's going slowly, but we're being consistent. And then, I sent you the other day, the Google Analytics charts. We had basically no traffic, zero. And we knew that because it was not an active site.
Just less than 10 articles.
Until a month ago when that one article, the 60 best playgrounds and play spaces for kids in Chiang Mai, started getting a huge amount of traffic. Yeah. Up to hundreds of hits a day, which is not a lot, but still the chart was flatline.
Still exciting.
Flatline, and then it's parabolic. So it's just it's really consistency, 1 or 2 articles a month. We were trying to get this consulting thing going. Like we said, if you even did 2 or 3 calls a month, that would already be a significant, contribution to the house finances. And it would be also more than that, a confirmation that our efforts are good, that we're on the right track, that people want what we're offering, and we should keep going.
Yeah. And I think, when we started working on this, I think both of us can feel good doing this, even if the financial returns aren't necessarily there. because it's like fun and interesting, and it's also a way we can like build community.
Yeah.
And sort of share this place that we love. But it's also really nice when, it's just squares the circle, or whatever the right apt metaphor is.
Well, yeah, one of the best ways to know that you're on track is if you can make money with something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the only way. You could measure in other ways, like how many people you are affected. But just knowing that people willingly, lovingly give their money for the thing you're offering, it's just a really basic, ancient metric for knowing that you're on to something.
And this isn't like, we're not snake oil salesmen on the internet, right? We actually like, I just feel like it's virtuous. We love our lives here. That's like a genuine thing. I think a lot of people could have the same options that we do. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, it does kind of bleed over into values and politics a bit because we both think that families are important. There should be more families, but it's terrible when a family has to go both parents back to work after a few weeks and put their kids in daycare, or just decide not to have a family. Like most of the people I know back in Montreal just chose not to because they can't afford it. Yeah. And we think that people don't realize that they could come over here or other countries, and it just changes the factors of life where you could have a family, even a big family, and you could have help, and you could stay home, and you could see your kids, and people just don't realize. Yeah. And so we feel like we're on a mission to spread that information around. Yeah. And this touches right on something that we kept discussing, like articles and media content, like just the media landscape is so strange right now. In the West. Because we're sort of part of the Anglosphere, right? And I encountered this article that somebody within my LinkedIn network shared, and I know that she's passionate about remote work and like world schooling. She travels with her family, so that's someone I have a values alignment with. And she shared this article in the Wall Street Journal that was basically saying that like there should be a Surgeon General's warning to parents because it's like so bad for your health. To be a parent?
To be a parent, that it should come with a warning label. And I was like, what? Parenting is hazardous to your health, the Surgeon General warns. The nation's doctor says parents are lonely. Maybe it's really the powerlessness of parenthood that's gotten us down. And to me, that's just such a warped... It's not untrue. There's a sentiment being expressed there that's like not untrue. Like parenting can be so lonely and isolating, and it's like, it's such a hard job. You lose sleep, you make sacrifices, like all these things. But that's just the wrong framing of it. And if the Surgeon General is making a warning, the headline should not be an indictment on parenting. The headline should more accurately be an indictment on parenting in America. Right. Because if you're stuck with a nuclear family, you don't have like the village, you don't have an extended clan and family and community support to raise children, it's so hard. If you're stuck in the home as a like stay-at-home mom and you don't have social support, you go a little crazy. Like all these different things that are kind of like unique to this like moment, like to the time and culture that's being diagnosed, those are the problems. It's not parenthood in and of itself that's the problem. Right. And when you put out like news articles like this, it's anti-family, and it just pushes a false narrative that I feel like makes people, it's dystopic and sad, because parenting is beautiful. Parenting is a joyful thing. You're not making sacrifices. Like it's an investment, it's not the right way of thinking about it.
And they would hide behind the fact that probably buried in the content, 5 or 6 paragraphs down, is probably something true. There probably is some research, some study. There's probably something that we might even find interesting. Yeah. But the point is, they know the huge majority of people don't read past the headline. Yeah. And of those that do, don't read past the first couple paragraphs. Yeah. So it's like this game they play where the headline is really the whole message. Yeah. But then if you would ever challenge them on it, they would say, oh, no, but we're really saying that parents need more support and blah, 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 something like that. Yeah. But actually, that's not the point of the article. We all know that. Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, it's not that I think like everyone should have, everyone needs to have children. Like, I think, you do you, live your life choices, but I do think it's kind of irresponsible for the powers that be who have such control over the media narrative to be painting parenthood and families and marriage in such a negative light, considering how necessary parents, families, procreation is to a healthy, functioning society. Like, why sabotage yourself like that?
Yeah.
And like, there's so many examples of just this really bizarre message. And I know that I feel so confused by it, right? Because it's just hard for me to believe that there are evil people spreading this message.
Yeah.
But I think you try to, I don't know, you don't want to make me feel sad. But there's enough examples of this that...
Well, there's so much to say about that. But it's like, do we think that these people want a healthy society?
Yeah.
And that they're just confused in how they're diagnosing why it's not?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they trying to make an unhealthy society for some reason?
Yeah. Like, there's that other article, right? Because, I don't know, I guess it's kind of popular to hate on Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You're telling me about another news article.
Yeah. Well, there's we see every week tons of them, right? It's so strange. But that's the moment we're in. But this other article, the title is, Elon Musk and others urging people to have more kids are essentially calling for a Ponzi scheme, experts say.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because that was actually tweeted by Mark Andreessen and then retweeted by Elon Musk, which is, he likes to retweet stuff where he's in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like big sections of like liberal coastal America are under a barrage of propaganda, anti-family propaganda.
Yeah.
Because it's always the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, like people in red states or rural or whatever, they don't read these articles, typically. This is a propaganda assault on largely liberal coastal people, which is like just, it's anti-family. And it would take a multi-hour podcast to really flesh out like why they would be doing that.
We have more fun stuff to talk about.
Just at the surface level, we could just say that we're against that. We think that's terrible. Yeah. It's hard to say if that's millennials who are working in these places who are just jaded and cynical, or if there's something deeper going on about why these articles we keep getting made. But the framing is never like what. The framing is never about how the system has let families down and the system should do better. Like the framing is always, that's the thing is the framing is always pushing people who are undecided away from having kids.
Yeah.
The framing is not about pushing the powerful towards making reforms that would help people have kids.
Yeah.
And then you could say like, oh, well, they're just describing things as they are. And it's true, like it is hard to have kids, especially in the West. But the framing it's like confirming that it's hard, it's hopeless, and you just shouldn't. That's kind of like the overall feeling you get from all of these articles. When it should be, it's a cyclical thing, but like it should be framing why it's hard to have kids and what the solutions are. And stopping to print trillions of dollars all the time, which is causing massive inflation. Which is, it's how many people.
Cost of living crisis, housing crisis.
We were going to do a video on this. I think we might follow up later, like. Because there was a trend on TikTok and Twitter a few months ago of people comparing their grocery bill now to 3 years ago or 4 years ago. It's like doubled in some cases.
Yeah.
It's like that's why people can't have kids.
Yeah.
Because 60% of their income goes to rent, another 20% goes to food, and you can't imagine adding diapers and all these things into that. So there's a reason people aren't having kids. It's not because it's bad for your health. It's not because it's a Ponzi scheme. It's because it's
Yeah. And I think the other article, sort of topical thing in the news that we've both been really compelled by is like talking about like food systems in America, right? And again, like really deceptive media headlines. We both really, I feel like I've become like so crunchy and woo-woo since becoming a mom, and I want to do these things like been making like bone broth and stuff like that.
Yeah, it turns out the hippies, all those 70s hippies were right about everything.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily right about how to live on a commune or something. To the degree that was important, but like fluoride, the overprescription of vaccines, the overprescriptions of all pharmaceuticals, organic food, processed food, sunshine, nature. Like they were just right about everything.
Yeah.
And they got made fun of for 50 years, and now so many people are kind of doing the full circle, coming back around and being like, actually, sunshine, grass, nature, whole foods, as few pharmaceuticals as you can contend with.
Yeah.
Less screen time. It's just like all the crunchy stuff from the 70s and onwards it's all true.
Yeah, but it's like we listened to this really great interview with Dr. Callie Means, right? She was calling out the issues with how the food system in America is like basically poisoning people. And I think it's so compelling when you look at the statistics. Yeah, it really just makes you stop to question like, oh, right, like we see cancers on the rise, we see diabetes on the rise. Like, how is like the life expectancy in America going down of all things, right? And the thing is like, it's not something that feels easy to talk about because there are so many powerful forces up there. But like, if you look at the food as this doctor has done, then like, oh, right, things click into place. And it was shortly after we listened to this podcast episode and we were just like talking about it. And again, us sort of just being students of media and the news and seeing headlines, there's this Times article that came out with the headline basically in defense of like doctors in defense of ultra processed food.
Yeah, it's like, what if ultra processed food isn't that bad for you?
Yeah.
And it's surely no coincidence that came out like a week after this very high profile interview that had Twitter ablaze about ultra processed foods. It's no coincidence, of course. And again, it's just a headline because maybe if you would read in the article, I didn't do it. Why would I? But maybe if you would read down 3 or 4 paragraphs, there would be something like that people misunderstand that ultra processed wheat isn't as bad as there might be something there, but that's not even the point. Like that's why I don't even want to read the article because it's not the point. Like if you start reading past, it's like you're kind of like letting them win. Like because the point of that kind of thing is that it just throws it into the mix. Yeah. And it gets people like, oh yeah, maybe it's not that bad. Yeah. And there's this thing. It's kind of what we were talking about with the other podcast, Eric Weinstein was saying, like there's these layers of complexity. Yeah. And no one wants to be the rube who just believes the first layer of information.
We all want to feel like we're clever.
Yeah.
We see the man behind the curtain.
Right. And so an article like that saying, what if ultra processed foods isn't as bad as you think? That gives people who want to be the first level of clever a way out of thinking about it. Because like, oh, all the rubes think like sugar bad, wheat bad, but like actually it's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then that lets them stop. So like, okay, I'm not the rube. I'm not the basic level person who just believes what he sees. I read the other article which counteracts it, and now I have something to tell myself. Yeah. Whereas you have to go much deeper to like see past that and past that and past that. Yeah.
But yeah, with that deceptive headline, what happened was enough, I think, right-thinking people called that out. That I think it was the Times, they edited the headline to more accurately say one dietitian speaks out in defense of ultra processed food. Right. It's not like doctors plural. The community of doctors believe that ultra processed foods is fine. Yeah. Which is what the headline wanted you to. Yeah.
And that's another trick they play is they'll go and edit an article a week after it had its huge visibility spike. Yeah. That's what these newspapers have been doing for 100 years. They add the edit or the correction after the spike's already happened, and they can say, oh, well, it's not defamatory or whatever because we have the addendum there. But it's like the article with the addendum gets 1/10 of the traction that the original, first week or two got. But even then, it's a nonsense article. Yeah. One dietitian.
But to sort of move the conversation maybe in a little bit more of like a wholesome, positive production direction. Because this is fun, but like I think we've had lots of conversations about like how we want to live as a family and like live out our values. And I think just this realization, right, of like wholesome foods. We need a village. We need to support one another. Like parenthood and motherhood shouldn't be isolating. It's one thing to sort of like speak against all these things. It's another thing to like have those lived values, right? I feel like last week felt really wholesome because I took I had the wonderful opportunity to put those things into practice when one of my best friends just had a baby, and I've been making bone broth, and it's like my new like nice gift to give to people is I made like a special bone broth formula to help her with like postpartum recovery. I brought her a casserole. And she was like, no one has ever brought me a casserole before. It's kind of this thing in like the American mythos that like people would do, you know?
Yeah.
If a family is like ill or grieving or like in need, that you bring over the casserole. But in her entire life, that hadn't actually happened to her. And I think about it and it's like, oh, how many times have I actually done this? But it's kind of like it's just like a simple act of love. And just we know as parents, like just me usually being the person who plans food and just not having to think about that when you're such in like a newborn haze, right? Just, yeah, rather than bringing stuff, it was just like, hi, I just want to give you a little bit of like food love and nourish your body. And oh no, that was nice. It's like not to be too self-congratulatory, but it just feels good to talk intentionally about our values and how we want to live our life, and then to have the opportunity to do that. And I just have this feeling that like, if you're like, you know, it's like that parenthood is sacrifice notion. I think it's just so wrong to think about it that way. Because the thing is like, if you're living life right, according to God, according to whatever spiritual beliefs make sense for you, when you're in that good place, giving feels like receiving. It's like my friend was very appreciative of these things and it was nice to hang out with her. But like, even though I was one who's doing something for her, I felt really grateful to her. It's like, thank you for letting me love you. Like, I feel like my heart is so full. Thank you for receiving me. And that was just really nice. And I just, yeah. And it's just like, how did we lose these things? I just really want us to have more of that and to teach our children like how to live like that like giving is not so much of the world is thinking about like, oh, am I being taken advantage of, like equality, like if I give something, is something being taken away from me? And it's like, no, those are all the wrong way to look at life. It's like, it's an infinite game. Like the way you win at life is to do the good things.
Yeah, well, another word for all that is community.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, we had specific talks in the last couple of years about the fact that we're no longer, nomads and travelers. We're actually becoming we want to build a community, and we want to have a certain role in our community, a supportive role, a fathering, mothering role. We want to help other families do well.
Yeah.
Our friends who don't have kids, we want to help them see that that's a nice thing, a good thing to do.
If they want to do that, it doesn't have to be unpleasant.
And as well as like just things like even thinking about offering childcare help or food help or something like that. Because it's like we're so detached from the cycle of family. Like I haven't lived in a house as a family for like 20 years till now, right? And there's all these things that families are supposed to do in a community with other families that if you just are decades away from seeing that, you kind of forget about it. So we kind of got specific, like we should be the ones who check in on our friends, make them food, ask if they need support, plan things where everyone can come together. Don't tell them what to bring. They don't have to bring food. They can just come, just whatever. But we kind of have to be specific about it because it's different than how you live in your 20s.
And
so for me, the word is community. And it's like, everyone wants that as a concept and talks about it, but then it's something you actually have to do. Yeah. And doing it, you actually have to think about what you're going to do because it's not actually that obvious.
And you don't just talk about it.
Yeah. Everybody wants it. And I think everybody wants to do more of it, but people aren't sure what to do. And there's also this like awkwardness. Like you brought them a casserole and bone broth. It's like, I think there's just a little bit of awkwardness pervading everything now. Like, is that well received? Do they want that? Like, there's just kind of stiff awkwardness that people tend towards not doing anything new or strange or just, even if it's kind, it's like. You want to impose. It's like you don't want to impose, especially in Thailand with the whole grain chai thing. Yeah. But, so I'm very proud of you and I'm proud of us for starting to build those kind of tendencies, community-based tendencies. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, this is maybe how they were raised and grew up, and that's all like wonderful. Yeah. And that's great. But for us, I think we've had to like learn to be a little intentional about it.
Yeah, intentionality. That's the word, intentionality in our community building.
Yeah. And other fun activities last week, we just impromptu little family photo shoot. It's like since Melody's been born, we didn't have that many photos. Maybe I didn't love the photos that were taken of me immediately postpartum.
Right.
And so you were like, hey, let's just go do the thing.
Yeah.
So we just, on a Saturday morning, when we had the nanny around, we just went over to one of our favorite little cafes, which is so scenic, and just took some cute photos of our family. It was just so nice. Just playing with Fiona. Melody was in a good mood, just like giggling. And so that was really fun.
Yeah, it's great.
It was nice. Because sometimes I talk about things forever and I can get into like a complaining energy. And then you're just like, let's just go do the thing.
Yeah, we've been meaning to do a photo shoot for like over a year. It was like 20 minutes. It wasn't a big deal, but the photos came out really good. Mm-hmm. It's the perfect season in Thailand, in northern Thailand, in my opinion, because everything is so lush, so vibrant. The colors are like crazy, crazy beautiful. It was like insanely beautiful. Anyway, so that's the season that we're in. Where it's just the color, the greens, and the
rainy
sky.
Season, highly underrated. And then, what we do for family outing? You ended up taking Fiona to the night safari, to the zoo. Yeah. You guys have so much fun. You guys had some really great Daddy and Fiona dates last week.
I've been trying to spend more time with her. This started 2 weeks ago, where I noticed I was getting into a little work routine with you and the nanny, taking care of Fiona, and it's perfect. But I can kind of tell, like, when we're all in the same room together, like who Fiona goes towards, or who she wants to be silly with or whatever. And when it's never me, it's not that big a deal, but I just start to think like, okay, I got to spend a little bit more time with this little baby, because she's still a baby, and her brain just operates at a basic level. Like whoever she got love and attention from the most in the last like 2 days is who she gravitates towards. But I just thought, okay, it's, you don't want to create so much efficiency, or I don't want to create so much efficiency in my daily schedule that I don't ever really directly engage with her. Yeah. You want to be needed as a parent. I see her and I play with her, but like, we're not like really like, it's almost like I don't want her to be a background part of my life. It's like I don't want you or Melody or my friend, but it can start to feel like that because I have the nanny and you take care and I have the office. So anyway, I thought, okay, let me just spend like a specific couple hours with her. Yeah. So I took her to the mall, to the big bouncy house. Oh my god! Well, that was the first day, right? Yeah. The big bouncy house castle. And then I thought, I don't have so little time. I can't just take her sometimes, and I think she needs it. So, yeah, since the last 2 weeks, I just try and just say, okay, I'll just take her to the cafe, or I'll take her to the zoo, or just go walk around the block. Like I usually like to do my morning walk alone, so I can do the big 3-kilometer loop. But if I see that she's antsy to get out, I'll just walk with her and get less distance. That's good. And it's just, there's no downside to that. It's pure benefit. Yeah. Even the time it eats up, it's like that's just what the point of life is. So it doesn't even feel like it's eating time. Yeah, time well spent. Yeah. That's what it's for. I guess the point I'm trying to make though is like, as an online digital worker, which you've also been a lot, it's easy to get into this headspace where everything is about your work. And even like doing yoga or meditating or going for a hike, it's wound up getting roped mentally into the service of working more. Right. You're like, if I go for a 2-hour hike, I'll focus more on work. So everything becomes about optimizing for more work. Yeah. That's one downside about not having a 9-to-5, is that you can always sit down and do more. Yeah. Right. And so I just don't want my family to be, it's like, oh, if I see my family in a certain way, I can work better. It's like, it's like a nagging part of my mind about like creating all these efficiencies. Yeah. So let me just break out of that, spend way more time with her, and not think about it like it's my obligation or it's in service of work. It's just my love for her and the joy of being a father. Yeah. So we have these little jokes, right? That we're able to live such an aristocratic lifestyle. In a way, we have like all this help. Yeah, we're so lucky. We have comparatively such like a big house, all these things, but we don't want to take that too far, right? We don't want to be like Downton Abbey. The nanny brings the children like twice a day, and like we pet them and leave. Like no, we actually like really like we love having a nanny, but
the point is that we became parents because we genuinely want to be parents and be involved in our children's lives.
I guess it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Where the childcare, we have so much help with childcare that we can really choose how much we take.
Yeah.
And we can just realize that we're miscalibrating, or that's why I did very recently. And you saw, it's not like I was never seeing the girls, but I just noticed her drifting a little bit into the background. But it's just so nice that I can just choose, and I can just choose more.
Yeah.
And you can choose, and that's that's what you said. Like we like to. It's a joke that we get to live like aristocrats, because if we would be in the West, this lifestyle would be, I don't know, you'd have to make it just an insane amount of money to live this kind of lifestyle. That here we could just do on a very average income.
We're very lucky.
So we're so fortunate in that regard.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to spread this information to people who, it's like some people can't leave the West, they don't want to, whatever, but there's a bunch of people, I'm sure, who could work remotely, who have an online business or could make their corporate business an online one, who would just have almost no downside and just tremendous upside by doing something similar to what we're doing.
Yep.
I'm sure there's just tons of people like that.
Yeah.
It's not everyone, but there's tons of people who could just live the arbitrage lifestyle, see their kids more or start to have kids, do more hobbies, take better care of their health, eat better, get outdoors more, and be more productive at work, and save more and invest more, like everything, like just no downside.
There are many benefits to like living in a highly developed country, but you do lose something in all of that safety and structure, right?
Yeah.
And it's so easy to be swept up in the popular culture and just do what everyone else does.
Yeah.
And for us, just where we choose to live is really supportive of us making choices for us as a family. Some that go very in line with, I think, like local Thai cultural values, and some that are a little bit alternative as well. Thailand just happens to be a very good destination for just a happy medium with that.
Yeah. It's really good.
Feels like a good moment to just stop off, sir. Thanks for tuning again this week.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
And we can't wait to share our adventures next week with you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.